was that his wife concocted a scheme with an attorney to get him committed so she could spend funds he inherited from his dead mother. He testified of being assaulted and force-fed toxic substances that he knew was killing him repeatedly, and that he was without strength to fight it any longer. I testified firsthand that sadistic psychotic quacks that I saw with my own eyes actually laughed, thought it was funny that their patients were drooling on themselves and twitching uncontrollably because of the substances they were giving them. They enjoy, not all of them, some of them are so damn deceived themselves, they actually think that what they're doing is the way to treat people. And if that's the case, they're so unintelligent they should be permanently barred from medical practice, period. Either way, these things should not be going on. Whether they're so self-deceived and self-deluded that what they think is medical treatment, acceptable medical care, is torturing and murdering people, or if they're so damn sadistic they actually enjoy doing it. Either way, those people should be locked up. They are wrong in their thinking. Wrong thinking. And that's what they do. That's what they do in their 9-to-5 jobs. I watched it firsthand. Whole groups of them. I testified firsthand that those sadistic psychotic quacks that work there deliberately enjoy destroying persons' lives by forcing these FDA-approved, euthanizing and organ-damaging pharmaceuticals on innocent Americans and other global citizens who have not been found guilty of committing any crimes whatsoever, but are nonetheless being illegally confined and tortured, and in some cases where victims have no outside ties, being experimented on and even murdered at will by these cultists. If there are any investigations, or when victims escape their clutches and try to tell others these crimes are occurring, people have been so successfully brainwashed through propaganda that these individuals are medical professionals, that all their patients are mentally ill. No one believes those testifying, despite the fact that even public advertisements now tell us plainly the FDA is approving these substances that are known to cause. We're not talking about a tiny percentage here. They claim it's a tiny percentage. Even if it was a tiny percentage, it's wrong. It's wrong to give a toxic substance to another human being. They won't take it. I guarantee these people won't take it. If they do, they're idiots. And who's to say that just because an idiot's willing to kill themselves, that all the rest of us should just follow along? They tell us in the advertisements that the FDA, has approved these substances, that these things cause permanent organ damage, permanent brain damage, and even death. And they're letting it be forced upon, not willfully chosen for people that are, I don't know what's wrong with their brains to take these substances when they tell you that. But you are not thinking clearly. Those chemicals are highly toxic, and they know it. And they're not pulling it off the market. Instead, they're allowing people to be tortured and murdered in these ways. Ask yourself truly, who really, in fact, is mentally ill here? An innocent person who, having committed no crime whatsoever, is locked up against their will by these people. By the way, when they commit somebody, it's guaranteed income for them. They should ensure job security. How many people for, job security or otherwise would love to have a position like that where you could just guarantee yourself, generous salaries? But that's what these people do. They slander and libel somebody, torture them, and even murder them. At best, they claim they successfully treated somebody that's released, drooling on themselves, or doing the Thorazine shuffle. And they get paid to do it. Paid generously to do it. So who's the really mentally ill there? The innocent person who, having committed no crime whatsoever, is locked up against their will by these people. An innocent person who struggles for their freedom and their very life inveighing against these people who libel, slander, and torture them, an innocent person who risks public ridicule and perhaps even their own very life to warn others that these things are going on, and governments around the world, including our own, are condoning these practices, or the psychotic quack who parades around in their arrogance like he or she is a doctor or nurse and intentionally gives toxic poisons that leave their patients, rather their victims, in a vegetative or comatose state, or drooling on themselves, or uncontrollable muscle twitching, or some other permanent injury, or even dead, as acceptable medical practice. Who's really the mentally ill? The patient? The victim that these people all tell you are mentally ill? Or them? These drugs, man, cause all that I've listed and more. And an early demise, sooner or later, it takes years off people's lives, every one of these drugs do. Years off their lives. There have been documentaries of surviving families from the deaths of these drugs that have gone in person to the FDA, and they still permit these drugs to be administered and forced upon innocent citizens. They smile as they watch their patients drool on themselves or twitch uncontrollably due to their medical treatments. Hundreds of thousands of documented deaths have occurred due to these pharmaceutical drugs, and millions of undocumented cases classified under other causes because it took victims longer to die from them being poisoned over a prolonged period of dying. People, face it, God is right. His judgments are righteous and true altogether. We have all been duped by propaganda into thinking that pharmaceutical manufacturers, doctors, and nurses all mean well, when in fact the evidence is overwhelming that the chemicals they are forcing upon us, that they add to the natural substances God made for our health. The unnecessary additives, not intrinsic in the process of making the drug itself. Chemical poisons are added to these pills that have nothing to do with the intrinsic process of making the so-called health remedy. Yes, it is done on a regular basis. Absolutely it is. We've all been duped by the pharmaceutical giants, by the propaganda and advertising, by all the greed involved in making people sick and dying. There's no way that these substances that have known side effects, all of which are harmful in varying degrees, are put on the market unknowingly in ignorance. There's no way that the doctors and nurses that prescribe and dish these things out are innocent of these heinous crimes when they intentionally poison someone to death against their own wishes, or give medications that state plainly not to administer to any person with limb damage to someone who is overtly jaundiced. There's nobody that incompetent or that stupid. These are done intentionally. They are committing premeditated homicide of the worst kind. They are not that stupid. They are not that innocent. They're not that ignorant. Everybody, when these people are finally busted, they all claim that, oh, I didn't do it intentionally. Like the doctors and nurses that murdered those people during Katrina. Well, I didn't go up there thinking, I'm going to murder all these people. No, they just did it anyways. Had to walk up flights of stairs and inject these people with lethal doses, and I just somehow did it. And everybody bought that load of crap. Why are these people not locked up or executed? They committed numerous murders. Has our government done anything to stop it? I just know, but hell no. They've been, if anything, releasing more and more toxins on the market. They are guilty of the same atrocities that we went to war over in Nazi Germany, and I will fight this evil until I either succeed in their justified apprehension and confinement for their tortures and murders, or until the whole world knows how depraved and degenerate these persons are and can no longer get away with their heinous actions. Let's face it, if doctors and nurses really cared about their patients, they would not force upon them substances they would never take themselves, under any circumstances, or give to their children or anybody they actually care about. Let's face it, if the pharmaceutical manufacturers really cared about us, they would not intentionally add toxic chemicals, poisons, and medications to make us more ill, so we buy more of their medications, to put us on drugs for life, getting rich off poisoning us and making us ill in the name of acceptable medical treatment. If they really cared for us, they would grow the flowers, the herbs, the roots, and give us the barks and the leaves of natural substances God made in its natural, unaltered state with no harmful additives, and these substances would help us recover, not keep us on chemicals for the rest of our lives, the rest of our deteriorating quality of life, as the modern pharmaceutical and medical complex does to us now. And finally, face it, that there is no way our leaders that go to the best colleges on earth that get letters like this from myself and other surviving victims that have access to all the class action suits filed for all the deaths and injuries these drugs are causing, do not leave such poisons on the market in ignorance. They are allowing the torture and deaths of innocent Americans by doctors and nurses now, just like CNN exposed during Katrina. Doctors and nurses have been busted globally doing illegal organ harvesting, and for every news story that we hear about, there are millions of victims dead by the ones not caught. I, for one, will not and cannot remain silent at this outrage. As a result of what these wicked persons did to me, I suffer in my person so horribly at times that I have to struggle to find the will to live. As such, whatever days I have left on earth, I will use whatever strength and ability God gives me to alert all citizens that this evil is becoming epidemic. And if we do not unite together and hold our leaders accountable for allowing such heinous atrocities to go on unaddressed, if we do not demand public oversight of all hospitalized procedures, specifically in the manners I suggest on this website, then these crimes will become so prevalent that not just the secretive ones already in practice, but open exterminations upon innocent citizens truly loom in the very near future. Please, help me put public pressure on all authorities and create public awareness so that these criminals in government and in hospitals will find themselves properly behind bars, or better yet executed, for their mass murders and heinous, torturous atrocities. I affirm the truth of this statement this 4th of July, 2010, before all heaven and earth. After years of trying in vain and documented efforts to contact any and all responsible parties that could help me ensure public safety from criminals that I cannot and will not tolerate on the loose. This is just another documented effort of mine to ensure you and your loved ones' safety. I will not give up fighting along with living and brave, deceased patriots and global heroes and heroines against this kind of evil in our midst until I prevail or die trying. Respectfully, for all who stand against these abominations with me, Michael Swenson. And keep in mind that the letter I'm about to read and sending to respective governors and the President as proof that their offices have been notified repeatedly by me, and as to the content of what I'm sending to them as a result of my frustration over years of polite pleas, repeatedly submitted to them all in vain. I have evidence of all of those pleas, including the $10 trillion class action suit I filed because of these crimes, in which all of these personages and parties and responsible entities of our government were clearly served and notified. I have proof of all that, and I have proof of all the signed return receipts that with years of persistence, I have been unable to find even one single competent individual in our government anywhere willing to address these atrocities that I have personally survived and witnessed firsthand, suffering unfortunately to this day from. And so this is the result of my frustration over the fact that none of these people are fulfilling their oaths of office. None of these people care about your and my safety any longer. They'd rather play golf with their rich, greedy buddies, man, that are responsible for the blood-soaked bills, man, being used to bribe politicians to make us, in their minds, be as nothing. Will you not help me restore sanity to America and fight for the freedoms and the justice and the very lives of you and your children? Officials that are responsible, competent persons of integrity, if there are any left in government anywhere. Here's the letter. I'm going to show you I'm enclosing this too. I'm not just reading it, I'm enclosing this to these people. They're going to get this letter. Because all the proofs of service and stuff, and all the, signed return receipts, they can just say some, other content within the letter. So I'm showing you the content. I'm going to show you I'm enclosing it in these letters. I'm going to show you I'm mailing it. I'm tired of their lies. I'm tired of these people not behaving responsibly and ethically. Not, doing their duties, man. They are not performing their oaths to serve and protect us. They are preying upon us. And they are condoning, man, by their inactions at the very least, by their negligence at the very least, horrendous atrocities being committed within the borders of this country. I have directly informed yours and many respective and pertinent offices that I'm an eyewitness and personal survivor of atrocities being committed within the United States of America. I have personally witnessed and survived mass murdering positions in the states of Washington and Idaho. I personally suffered from police so corrupt that they blackmail women for sex acts rather than arrest them for first-degree attempted homicide like they should. I have told you that an FBI agent threatened to lock me up if I even tried to present the evidence of these atrocities. I have told you that I spent all my strength, energy, and resources contacting every agency, medical review board, governing official on a local, state, and federal level, including a personal visit to the U.S. Prosecutor's Office where a prosecutor, instead of looking at said evidence, decided to mock and insult me, and I have proof of this. I filed a civil complaint in U.S. District Court and named all executive powers that had jurisdiction over these matters to make certain they were served. This was after direct notification through USPS, signed return receipt of all named authorities who had sat on their overpaid, corrupt, lazy, apathetic, complicit asses and did nothing, and knew that they were leaving mass murderers and rapists in offices of public trust. And with proof of legal service in my hands, the court dismissed the case before any hearings by alleging no such service had even occurred. Even the Court of Appeals lied on record, stating no brief was ever filed when I had copies of the filed notice and brief as evidence that I did. The Court of Appeals returned my electronic submission on media in addition to the written one and alleged that they had never even received such. I have proof of delivery by the United States Postal Service and return from them in my holdings. In short, I have done everything a citizen can do within our structured system to no avail. And daily I have to live with how many others are being tortured and murdered right now as I speak to you. Because of my inability to find even one intelligent, competent professional in government anywhere. And because when you have the duty, the authority, the power, the weapons, the armor, and responsibility to make all necessary arrests without loss of life, including your own, you force citizens without such blessings to have to consider taking matters into their own hands